Hi everyone, this is Miss Fountain. Go ahead and open up to page 394 in your textbook. I have it up here on the screen as well. And we're going to do a little review of Thieves. So Thieves is a reading strategy. It's very useful, especially as you go into high school and college. It's a quick way to preview a reading without reading the whole thing, so that way it gives you a better idea of what you're about to read. Studies show doing pre-reading activities like Thieves help you remember or retain much more information. So it's a little bit of a study tool as well. By doing things before you read it, you are going to remember more of the material. So that helps prepare you more for tests, quizzes, assignments. Generally useful tool in high school and in college. So let's review what Thieves stands for. The T is for title, H is for headings, I is for introduction, E is for every first sentence in each section, V is for visuals and vocabulary. E is for end of article or end of chapter questions. S is for summary. Summarize your thinking. So before we read lesson 1, we're going to preview it. Now ideally, with practice with Thieves, you can do Thieves in about a minute. You just look through the pages and briefly look at all of these things quickly in your head as you look briefly through the pages. But if you haven't done Thieves before, it takes a little more practice, and we're going to go a lot slower as I explain each one of these items. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first one, Thieves, title. T is for title. That's pretty simple and pretty easy. Whenever you get a new reading, you always want to look for the title because that gives you a hint. It's a very, very useful clue to what the reading is about. The Oregon country. So this reading is going to be about Oregon. Next is headings. So these bold headings right here. They're not as big as the title, but they're also more clues to what the reading's about. Rivalry in the Northwest. Rivalry is a conflict, a problem, so there's going to be some kind of problem in the Northwest. The Adam-Onis Treaty. I know treaty is an agreement, so some kind of deal made. Mounted men in Oregon. There's Oregon again, so Oregon is important. We're going to find out about mounted men living in Oregon. Oregon and Manifest Destiny. So we're going to learn about Manifest Destiny, and again, Oregon pops up again. This whole reading is going to be about Oregon. Marcus and Narcissa Whitman. So these are people's names, so they're probably going to be important people. Along the Oregon Trail. Again, Oregon is there in the headings again. So Oregon is a key word that you want to pay attention to while reading. And that gives us the big clue that this reading is about Oregon. So that's a basic introduction to what this reading's about. America seeks its manifest destiny. That word comes up again, manifest destiny. So that's going to be another important key word. 54, 40, or fight. So if you don't know what 54-40 means, you're going to learn about it, and you know that there's going to possibly be a fight. So those are the headings. So that's H. H for headings. Next, we're going to go back to introduction. So you want to read the introduction. William Henry Ashley was one of the most famous of the mountain men who explored the Oregon country in the early 1800s. His Rocky Mountain Fur Company led several fur trapping expeditions far into the West. He described in his diary one such expedition in 1825. So again, they mention Oregon again and mountain men. So that's going to be, again, key topic, Oregon and mountain men. So that's the introduction. E is for every first sentence in each section. So let's take a look at every first sentence for each of these sections. So let's look over here. The Oregon country was a huge area located north of California between the Pacific Ocean and the Rocky Mountains. So this one tells me where Oregon is. The Adam-Onis Treaty over here. Many Americans wanted control of Oregon in order to gain access to the Pacific Ocean. So people want control. So this is why people are arguing over Oregon, because it's close to the Pacific Ocean, the location. So the location of Oregon is important. Let's look down here. Fur traders had been the first people from the eastern United States to take up the challenge of living in the Oregon country. So the first people to live in Oregon from the United States were fur traders. Again, it's telling us more about Oregon. So let's take a look for the next, first sentence. Oregon and Manifest Destiny. In the 1830s, Americans began traveling to the Oregon country to settle. So we're getting more people coming to Oregon. Over here. Among the first settlers were Dr. Marcus Whitman and his wife, Narcissa. So these are settlers of Oregon. Let's look at this first sentence. The Whitman incident was a shocking event, but it did little to stop the flood of pioneers on their way to Oregon. So something shocking, which is most likely terrible, happened to the Whitmans, but it didn't stop people from coming to Oregon anyway. So Oregon wasn't all happy stories. And you'll be reading about that later on. Let's look at this sentence. Since colonial times, many Americans had believed their nation's mission should be to serve as a model of freedom and democracy. So we wanted to be an example to others. We want our country to be the best and be an example to other countries. Over here. Many Americans wanted the United States to take over all of the Oregon country. So this may be what the fight's about. They want to take over all of Oregon country. Let's move on to V, visuals and vocabulary. So visuals, we'll look at pictures. This one shows a mountain man. And you can read descriptions about what the pictures show. So mountain men carved out several trails to the west in their search for bee or furs. So the mountain men are the fur traders. Vocabulary, we're going to look at the word we have plus, access, joint occupation, and then that's in there twice, so you want to really want to pay attention to that one. Let's see. There's a hat. We have the word mountain men. We have the word emigrants, prairie schooners, and prairie schooners is on there twice. And we have this picture here. And it says, before the 1847 Cayuse attack, the Whitman mission was a popular stopping point for settlers traveling along the Oregon Trail. So remember, it said something shocking happened. There was some kind of attack here. Let's see. So the dangers of going to Oregon. We have a map. So this gives us a lot of information. We can see Oregon here, so we see where it's at. And we see the borders during this time period in 1846. And we see the word manifest destiny. It's also in the heading, so you know that's a very important vocabulary word. And we see this image here. It says, this famous painting titled American Progress shows the idea of manifest destiny depicted as a woman leading the country into the West. So she's a visual representation of manifest destiny as she goes into the West. She carries a book which represents American enlightenment and is laying a telegraph wire. So she's also bringing technology and communication. Let's see. So visuals and vocabulary. And then end of article or end of chapter questions. So let's look over these questions. Time and place. Number 1, explaining issues. Which nations claimed the Oregon country? How did John Quincy Adams resolve the claims? Building history, social science, and analysis skills. Number 2, analyzing point of view. During the 1840s, more Americans than British settled in the Oregon country. How do you think this settlement influenced negotiations with the British over the territory? Number 3, explaining ideas. In what ways was the Oregon Trail part of manifest destiny? Number 4, distinguishing fact from opinion. Analyze this statement. The phrase 54-40 or fight was a successful political slogan. Is this statement a fact or an opinion? Explain your answer. Writing about history. Number 5, argumentative writing. Take the role of a scout in the 1830s who makes a living by guiding settlers to Oregon. Write a 2-paragraph advertisement telling people why they should move to Oregon and why they should choose you to guide them. Collaborating, presenting, working with a partner, produce a multimedia presentation explaining the reasons for American expansion into the Oregon country. Research and include images, paintings, popular songs, and folk tales in your presentation. So, last letter, S, summarize thinking, your summary. Basically, just looking at the title, headings, introduction, every first sentence, visuals and vocabulary, and end of chapter questions, just looking at those things, can you tell me what this reading is about? And you should be able to give me an idea. So from the titles and the headings, we know it's about Oregon. Like, oh, this reading is about Oregon. It's also going to talk about manifest destiny. And you see westward, people going west. You see the map, everyone's going west. You don't need to read that to understand that it's about going west to Oregon. You should get that just from the pictures, just from doing Thieves. And also mountain men. It's all about people exploring Oregon, the fur traders in Oregon. So it's all about Oregon. So that's the basics. And so knowing that, you're better prepared to understand what the reading's about when you actually read it. So in the next video, we'll go ahead and read Chapter 11, Lesson 1 on page 394.